It's been a bit of a break, but we are back. We've recovered from United Kingdom speed running earlier in the day, and now we're getting in to the other side of the bracket. It's going to be Portugal taking on Saudi Arabia in their first Overwatch World Cup appearance.
And both these teams, I mean, they just missed out. They just missed out a little bit. Portugal last year as well, so it is a little bit unproven too. Gray also now going to be on DPS. Portugal, Saudi Arabia getting rolled out of here. You see Saudi Arabia using this Symmetra trick to get out here fast to the first midpoint because we are in Busan, we are in control. So that Symmetra strategy very common for the rollout.
Saudi Arabia not wasting any time, going directly to the point. And Portugal, they're going to play the sides a little bit as ATF immediately finds Ryan Chu. Portugal starting off on a good note. Gonna go spat on the other side, 5-on-5. And we get to see Gray on DPS. He's known for a support play, but do you know him for his DPS play?
He's got some nice mechanics and good aim though with Light taking out Limonada. Gray gonna go down as well. And Saudi Arabia winning this first fight. Portugal actually playing a very interesting composition where they had Gray roll out on the Tracer for this. So they weren't playing the Doom Reaper, they were playing everything else Mirror, but they were just having Gray on Tracer, which is an interesting pick because Tracer not really been very meta very recently because of the fact that Moira just so strong against the Tracer. There's no way you can actually pressure the backline.
To an extent, I wonder if Portugal is simply deciding here that things are, they're taking it a little bit lightly because Tracer, it's not the pick you would actually expect.
So now Portugal are going to be re-entering the fight here, still staying on that Tracer. They do have that Coalescence available. Wouldn't be surprised to see a very aggressive pick and then have a very aggressive Coalescence and then Gray going to the backline, but KSA already down.
KSA down immediately, Portugal looking to get right back into the fight. Coalescence dueling both sides. The beat can be dropped by Saudi Arabia. They're investing. They think they can still take this even while down one, but ATF strikes again, finds the Orisa. Cohen, Meteor Strike, where's he gonna drop? Looking up and over. Not quite gonna connect, but forces Kassar to rotate out, and Gray now to pick up the scraps.
Kassar just playing tight on the point, does have the Meteor Strike, but with Cohen picking up Ryan Chu and Light down. That is a lot of the players down for Saudi Arabia. Just Kassar. You're actually going to commit the Meteor Strike, but they've already gotten the flip. He's just going to use the lead, but that's sort of a waste of the Meteor Strike. Portugal doing a very good engage there, getting those early pickoffs, and now they own point. But once again, they're still putting Gray on this Tracer, so Gray needs to be getting a lot of value here with this poke, looking for pulse bombs continuously. Portugal will have those double tank ults as well, and since Boostio does not have that beat, it's going to be a good flux for ATF.
Portugal, it's not quite a Doom Reaper setup where they're not going to be able to be quite as tanky on the point. They have to wait for Gray to make something happen. Already Supercharger being taken on down. Saudi Arabia dives on in, looks for the opportunity. Cohen is down, and this means off the flux. Gray's got to do a whole lot of work, and he does! Gray with 3!
And we have not seen that one in a while, but we just had the post-bomb flux combo there. Gray getting 3, just continuing to clean up Light, Kassar, both down. And that was a beautiful setup there for Portugal. ATF waits for the cooldowns to be used in that initial engage, drops the flux, Gray's there to use it. It's almost like a Graviton. It's almost like, it almost is like that old Graviton Pulse combo. A very interesting way to use the flux here for Portugal.
Showing that Tracer might not be gone yet. If nothing else, Gray is being entertaining, stalking the other team, coming in from the flank. The rest of Portugal certainly going to be coming in from the front. Cohen already there in the engage. Use the barrier, and they're diving directly into the back of Saudi Arabia.
Gray, though, going to get punched. Supercharger is 1 HP. It's so low. They need to finish Supercharger, but they didn't kill the backline. They didn't get the Supercharger despite that early pressure onto the Sigma. You saw Gray flank all the way around, going for the pressure there onto KSA. But the rest of Saudi Arabia, their front line is so strong. Their ult bank was so good. Just going to walk over them.
The problem with what Portugal is running here is that they simply can't win direct fights as easily as if they had the Reaper. They kind of have to wait for Gray to make his own opportunity or go for a big combo like we saw earlier.
Exactly that. They really do not have any options here to walk over the opposing team front line, or even to pressure Cohen or even to pressure Light at all, because generally, or Kassar, because it's generally the Reaper that's pressuring that dude out of the situations.
So I'm going to open up here with Meteor Strike. ATF already down. Meteor Strike needs to be big, but Beacon taking down 2 just to start things out. We'll see if Gray has anything left in the tank, but down 3. I don't think Tracer has it.
Portugal, though, they might have one more recontest. They do still have that Tracer, so they need to reset. They need to get back. 10% left. It's going to be a mad dash to touch as Gray goes back to the spawn and actually gets Ryan Chu again. As we are going to have a pause, it might be a technical issue that caused that to happen. But Portugal, they're going to be on a mad dash to go back to touch the point. Gray's in the backline, just finished picking up that Moira. So it's not over yet. It is a very interesting idea, though, for Portugal to pretty much exclusively be playing this Tracer rather than the Reaper. And like we talked about, the Reaper is much better at pressuring out the Doom. Kassar is sort of free right now.
Yeah, I mean, the problem that Portugal is running into is that Saudi Arabia, if they see just a mass of Portugal players, they can simply run at them. they don't have to worry. In fact, that is their ideal way to play it. Portugal, meanwhile, kind of has to wait, bide their time, hope that Gray finds something, and they have to play much more sort of opportunistic.
There, you see that they were earlier, how they're really just trying to focus with Gray. Gray's going behind. They're trying to focus one target because they're going to have Cohen go in with Gray and try to focus one person down really quickly and hope they can finish it out before the burst healing comes out. Because if they don't, they sort of auto-lose the fight because they just don't have that burst damage. They don't have that tankiness they need to roll over the front line.
It's definitely made for a more interesting round than we might have expected coming on in. Portugal, I think a lot of people would put as heavy favorite, but Saudi Arabia, in their first appearance here in the Overwatch World Cup, looking pretty good. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will resume where we left off.
The 2019 Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes.
We told you the break would be quick, and we weren't lying. We're already back. The technical issue is resolved. Saudi Arabia in control of the point. Portugal, final opportunity. They drop the supercharger, but Gray and ATF already down. Saudi Arabia too tanky to be stopped.
And they had to stream out onto the point. Gray was there to touch, but the ult bank for Saudi Arabia was so strong. Bustio dropping that quick. Very quick beat, making sure everyone's staying alive, gonna pick up Fat there. Now it's all just stagger kills, one by one. Portugal going down, and that's the first round going the way of Saudi Arabia.
I have to say, I want to think that Portugal, going into this, can run other things. I don't think Tracer is the meta hero that they're going to be just on the entire time. But if it is, they might be in a bit of trouble.
I know Gray, traditionally, when Gray has been playing DPS, because he does flex a lot in DPS. We haven't seen it in Overwatch League. Gray's been very hit scan minded. He might not feel as comfortable on the Reaper, though now I see that now Gray is going to be going out onto the Reaper here. So they're deciding the mirror. Deciding now they're not going to be trying to play that Tracer strat. Saudi Arabia once again going to put light onto the Symmetra, so they're going to do the fast rollout. And now the mirror, we might see something where they're not quite as pretty much dysfunctional in terms of their composition.
Well, the difference here is that Portugal can fight Saudi Arabia on even terms, where they don't have to run and wait for Gray to get picked off. Gray can simply just brawl with the best of them.
Saudi Arabia, Portugal rolling out here, both on the top. Kasara trying to get an early punch off the halt, and they're going to find Fat with the accretion.
Rough start for Portugal right now, so down one already. Saudi Arabia feeling pretty good, diving on deeper. Gray, though, striking back, heals with the Orisa. Portugal able to fight a little bit more evenly, but their Orisa completely caught out. Kasara able to find it. And Saudi Arabia well on their way to taking this first round.
And notice the angles that Kasara was playing that entire fight. We had his point of view. It's that as soon as he went for that engage off the halt, he played the off angles. He made it to come back in. He didn't overcommit because they had lost the main tank, and it was exactly what you needed to do is do. So Saudi Arabia taking the first fight, going to hold close to the choke, force Portugal to have to come into them. It is a pretty equal coalescence for both sides. So a lot of this is going to be based off the halt synergy for both the main tanks.
Portugal going in off the bottom angle here, and ATF is just picked off. White was able to get to the back. Saudi Arabia, the early pickoff. They're going even deeper. Might be a bit of a mistake. White ends up getting picked off as a result, and they simply go too deep. Cohen was able to come into the other side, finds two. Portugal working their way back towards the point. Kasara goes a little bit deeper, but not a lot of room to work with here.
No, definitely a little too deep for Saudi Arabia. They've lost the pick. Sure, they're burning time off the clock, but they invested the coalescence, they invested the meteor strike, and it's just a matter of they chased too far, got far too aggressive. Portugal going to get the flip here as Gray cleaning up on the point, and now they're going to go hold close to those chokes.
So Portugal able to tread water a little bit better at this point. It's been a tougher start for them than I think they ever could have dreamed of.
Portugal now holding on to both DPS ults, getting close to the supercharger as well. They're going to want to commit. They want to force those cooldowns. Are they going to have a halt? There's the halt. Meteor strike.
Going to the back. Heals to the enemy Sigma. Much better team fight here for Portugal. They might lose Cohen, but the damage has been done.
That was a good engage there for Portugal. They held close to the choke. They saved that halt for the meteor strike. Got some good value. Only one ult used there, which is important because sure, they're down to the control bank. It's not a significant amount, but if you can control the chokes with only one ult at a time, that's the ideal scenario.
Portugal, they guessed wrong. They thought Saudi Arabia would come up the left side instead. They go to the other. Gray just teleports directly in, goes for the Death Blossom, gets uppercutted for this trouble, but not before getting Lucio. Did DC enough damage, 4-on-4. Kasar, though, something to say about it. They go back in the other way, ends up whipping to a degree. Meanwhile, the Flux in for Portugal, setting the tone, deals with the Reaper, and Portugal still in a good spot in this fight.
Portugal's so split, though. They're going to commit the beat now, but they were so insanely split throughout the majority of this fight. They never regrouped, they never rotated. now they've lost a lot of their position. They're on point. They don't have a lot of sustain either.
Coheed, though, working around the sides, found the Orisa. Saudi Arabia doesn't have a lot to deal with. No, they decided to re-engage. They go up the barrier, they're investing, and they even got Gray. This is an opportunity for Saudi Arabia. The beat decision, a good one. Moving on in, the Flux, blocks the blood. This would be big for KSA. See if he decides to use it. Might not even have to.
No, KSA is looking like they want to hold it, which is a good call here. Because if they can save this Flux for the next fight, should be a good fight win for them because Fat is not that close to the beat. Good delay coming out from Portugal. You see Gray using the Shadow Step. Going actually going to invest the Meteor Strike too. Going to find one, but should go down very soon.
And Cohen right now just trying to buy additional time for Portugal. They're in control of the point. It won't be for much longer, but at the very least, it gets Portugal up to about 95%.
They just need one fight. Just need one fight here for Portugal. Saudi Arabia going to have to have a good hold here on the choke. But they have Flux. Fat does not have the beat. They have double DPS ult. They have Coalescence. They definitely have all they need. Ideally, they would like to trade the Coalescence here and then look for the Flux when they can't get away. This is the ideal situation for Saudi Arabia.
Portugal directly rushing on in, challenging Saudi Arabia in the position they're in. Coalescence out behind you. Both teams trading out Coalescence. KSAA holding back. Cohen is down.
Way too deep.
This is a really big opportunity for Saudi Arabia. And again, they might not even have to use the Flux between the two. Portugal, I think they're staying in a little bit long here. This is very risky.
They're staying in, but they haven't been cleaned up. Now Fat has beat. Sure, they have the Flux, but Fat has beat to counter this. Are they going to commit, though? They are going to commit.
Decide to use the Flux. They take down ATF. The beat's already been used, but Gray got to the back. Takes down two. Light, though, says one good Death Blossom deserves another. He does far more.
And Saudi Arabia, this fight's lasted so long, ZP. This is last fight. This is how long the fight has lasted. You see the Coalescence come out. Light just going to Shadow Step out of that Meteor Strike. And Saudi Arabia have done it. They've gone to the first map.
Unbelievable. Portugal dropping map one to Saudi Arabia, where many favored Portugal to start out here because Portugal has names that we've seen in the Overwatch League. But Saudi Arabia shocking Portugal to start things out. That means we might have a series on our hands.
I always like to see a series, and I have to say it was I feel like it was a bit of a misplay there from Portugal to stay in that fight so long, but at the end of the day, Saudi Arabia showing some real potential. Kassar, Light in particular, being very, very solid. They had a lot of good picks there. Portugal gonna have to readjust as they move forward, but it's definitely not a clear winner. This seems to be a pretty even matchup.
I feel like, if nothing else, that was a wake-up call for Portugal, where I don't believe in their heart of hearts that they thought Tracer was the way to go in round one. I think that was sort of, we're going to have fun. Their idea is like, we're here at BlizzCon, we're going to have fun. We don't know much about the team we're playing against, but surely it'll be fine. It's not fine, Portugal. Saudi Arabia came here to play.
Saudi Arabia, I mean, they want to make their mark on World Cup. This is their first year at it. They've worked so hard to get here to the prelims. They've been working that crowdfunding, getting the sponsorships behind them, and now they've made it. And they want to show why it was worth it for them to be here. They just show that they do have talent.
It's a really, really good sign for Saudi Arabia. And like I said, wake-up call for Portugal. And now Portugal, of course, will get to decide the next map in our hybrid pool. And probably going to be thinking a little bit harder about this than they thought.
Gonna have to readjust. Definitely probably not the Tracer either, unless they're gonna change up their team composition drastically. Greatman, I felt that was a comfort pick, but it definitely was not ideal. Just ready for both teams to get ready into our hybrid. It is gonna be our second map of the series. Not sure which hybrid it is just yet, but it is a hybrid.
Not quite sure where Portugal is going to bring us. And I do feel like from here on out, Portugal very likely be sticking closer to the Reaper Doom. I will be shocked if we see Tracer come out. I do think one pocket pick we may see, simply because of Gray's hero pool historically, is that if we went to a map like Nambani, we could see a Soldier 76.
I mean, we could also depending on the other maps, we could see a Widow even.
Yeah.
Widow, Gray definitely feels very comfortable on that Widow. It's more of a question of, is it something they're ever going to have the opportunity to run? Because it seems like Saudi Arabia have felt very comfortable only playing Reaper Doom. And Reaper Doom means that if you're playing those long-range heroes, especially those hit-scan heroes, you just roll over them.
Portugal mulling things over before we head into the next map. And I have to say, this is the fun volatility of the Overwatch World Cup, where every year that this program has existed, there has always been a shocking story that people did not expect. And we've seen plenty of that here today, where you look at this matchup right now, Portugal finding themselves in the hole against Saudi Arabia. You look at some of the other results where Italy taking Sweden to task. These are the stories that make the Overwatch World Cup.
That's the whole point of it, right? Finding that talent, finding some sort of insane result from players you just never would have expected against a very dominant region. That is the true underdog story. That's the Friday Night Lights. Whatever other sports analogies you want to make, that's really that's the most one I have on hand is Friday Night Lights. That's Mighty Ducks. We got Mighty Ducks. We got the Mighty Ducks. Yeah, we have that one too. And they technically, I mean, Saudi Arabia is the Falcons. They're the Mighty Falcons. I don't know what Portugal. I don't know if they have a familiar or like an animal.
Not sure of.
Does Portugal have one?
I don't know.
I honestly don't know either.
I don't have Wikipedia in front of me like Josh does right now.
Yeah, I know. Every time we turn over, we see a new Wikipedia article opened on the other opposing casting booth with Josh and with Sideshow and Bryn. So
it's become the brand over just 2 feet to the left of us.
At this point, there's a middle school book report. At this point, they're just like on Wikipedia, just like, oh, now there's the bibliography. So some very good stuff happening over there.
And of course, looking ahead in this matchup, the winner of this match goes up against the Netherlands, which not going to be an easy matchup.
No, I actually think Netherlands is in one of my dark horse candidates, ZP.
Yeah.
I also told people I think Denmark was going to be very good, and everyone was like, no, they're not, but they are. They're doing pretty good in their brackets.
I think people have collective amnesia about that because they forget how incredibly good Denmark was at the Thailand group stage last year, where they were very, very close to getting in to BlizzCon last year. And of course, this year they're here. And they've been playing very, very well. But we're going to take a short break while we wait for map number 2. Stand by. We'll be right back.
The 2019 Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes farther than ever, and it's built 5G ready. Omen, the official PC and display of the Overwatch World Cup. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch World Cup.
Ils arrivent pour le deuxième point, mais ils peuvent encore passer. C'est fait! Le double kill à domicile!
Last 2 years, I represent France is a huge honor for us.
Là où personne ne nous voit.
When esport was recognized in the US or in Korea, it wasn't in France.
Unbelievable!
3 now for Sue.
It's not representing a team, it's representing a nation, and there's a ton of people watching you because they are French and they want us to win.
The 2019
We had a little bit of a break there, but now we are ready to hop into the second map of the series. It's going to be Hollywood as Portugal looks to bounce back against a incredibly tough Saudi Arabia team.
This is a team that also had a very good, clear grasp of the meta. For a lot of these teams from regions that generally don't have as much Contenders presence or Overwatch League presence, you have to say that sometimes they come out with some very oddball strategies and strats that fit them in a more personal level. You rarely see just sort of meta reliance and also just meta understanding from squads like this, especially with squads with their first time being to a World Cup. And Saudi Arabia looked like they were very well polished.
It was surprising because the reality is when you sort of project how strong a team is going to be, if you don't have a ton of information, you're going to think, okay, maybe they'll play more off meta stuff, more one-trick style things, kind of like Ireland was earlier in the day. But Saudi Arabia, they came ready to play, they played the meta, and we'll see what they head out on here on the offense. Is Gray, it's not quite a Soldier 76, but it is a little of an interesting choice. It's going to be the Ashe.
No, it is not the Soldier 76, but I'm very glad that it's not because the Ashe makes a lot more sense here on the high ground. You can use the Dynamites with the halt to build that Bob very quickly. You do a decent amount of burst damage and you have some escapes. The hardest part though is going to be keeping Gray alive. You see, that's why Fat's on the Mercy because both Kassar and Light are going to be able to easily target Gray. And if they just get some halt accretion as well, Gray could be a very easy target. So they need that Mercy pocket just to get the max value out of the Ashe.
Portugal is putting so much faith in Gray to be the hard carry here. Ashe setups can be fantastic, but it requires an incredible degree of consistency, and I think Gray is very good at hit scan, but this is going to be a tough task.
And I think also Portugal's setup here is very solid too. They made sure to split. They're not all playing on the same high ground, where makes Kassar's job, the Doofus job, far easier. They're still just trying to control both the high grounds to give Gray as much space as possible. Force these long rotations for Saudi Arabia.
If nothing else, it's killing time, where already about 45 seconds off the clock with Saudi Arabia. They've made their way to the point. They're diving on Nora, but they need to deal with the Ashe. You cannot let the Ashe stay alive, or you will get poked down as Gray finds Orisa to start things out. You look for a little bit more. Doofus diving on over as Saudi Arabia tries to stay in the fight. The problem is, though, Gray is healthy, and Cohen is backing him up.
Oh, that was a beautiful engage, but they just wasn't able to hit the shot. See the Coalescence now invested for Draga. They're just still on point. They're still brawling. But Portugal, they're just playing so slow. They're playing around their shield.
Gray still plenty of room to work with. The shield's in his way, though. And look at the ground war. KSAA able to find Jaka, ends up with 2. The Sigma from Saudi Arabia doing so much work. 3 down, and Gray not in a good position at all to take advantage.
Just not able to get that Bob in time. It's so important for Portugal, for Gray to get the Bob in that fight. If you're going to play the Ashe, you must be getting consistent dynamite value, and once the fight's actually broken down onto the point, you saw Portugal had no space. Gray was getting pocketed, but there's barriers in his face, there's Lucio's in his face, everything is in Gray's face, and it's really tough for Ashe to be maximum effectiveness at that point.
I also just think the problem with what Portugal is running is that they simply have to run away from the ground presence of Saudi Arabia, and unless Gray is simply hitting every head in the world, I don't think what Portugal is what they're running right now, I don't think it's going to work.
They do have Bob now, they do have the Valkyrie, so you see they commit. There's going to be the Flux, can they find some early kills? Cohen already down, ATF down, but they're going to commit the Bob anyways.
Bob is in, +1, but the rest of the team completely down. KSA does it again, finding Gray towards the very end. I have to say, the Ashe experiment, it's not working. It's time to swap.
KSA has been using the fact that Gray is
Sombra.
on. So yes, I guess we're going to be playing a little Hackfist. Now that's, remember, we've seen very good teams play this comp before and it's been perfectly reasonable. Yeah. Sombra is not out of this world, not out of questionable, especially because you can punish the Doom in particular.
It is worthwhile, and Sombra used to be one of Gray's favorite pocket picks way back when. I don't know if it's going to work the way Portugal is playing right now.
They need a crucial hack. They need a very crucial hack considering all the ult advantage that Saudi Arabia has.
Meteor strike in, Cohen finds 2. That was big, but Kassar finding just the same, back the other way.
Light in the backline taking the duel here, very low, and this is going to be Saudi Arabia getting stopped here. Kassar though, he's still in the backline, but with the spawn advantage for Portugal, they should not be able to move the car any further.
Kassar in a little bit of a tough place, needs to back out, find a health pack, but Portugal just barely holding off for now. Upside, Gray, halfway to an EMP.
Gray going to be looking for the poke, looking for to get these hacks here on the engage, especially if you can hack the Doom or one of the tanks very early, you can deny a lot of the utility. Look at Beckett though, going around the top, going to drop the supercharger down onto the ground. I thought they were going to drop it on the high ground of all places, so it's immediately destroyed.
Lemon almost falling immediately, both superchargers down. Heavy pressure coming in here from Portugal though, as Gray up over the top, backing up Cohen. EMP's ready, but won't have to use it this fight.
And now the Portugal strategy is 100% paid off. They have the EMP, the most important ult. Busio used the beat there, they used the supercharger. Those are 2 big ults gone off the field for Saudi Arabia. Now Portugal can just win from EMP alone. All they have to do is catch 1 to 2 members and they can immediately just clean them up.
Portugal getting very desperately needed stability here. Still 2.5 minutes left to go from point B. If they win this fight, they'll be a good spot. They're going to open the EMP and immediately just dive in. That's power of EMP. It makes for some easy team fights. So they still lose 2.
And having to commit the Meteor Strike. It's taking them a while to clean up this damage. It is one of the downsides, I would say, of the Sombra is that you have the EMPs, you have the hacks, but it's not a lot of damage comparatively to a Reaper. When a Reaper, when it gets hacked, you function essentially the same, ZP. You sit there and you shoot people.
This is Saudi Arabia's opportunity coming up. Portugal, pretty drained on ultimate. Saudi Arabia in a decent spot. Certainly stronger given Sombra's reliance on EMP. This is where Saudi Arabia needs to strike.
This is where they go aggressive, very aggressive with the Coalescence. Maybe use the Meteor Strike and set up their Doomfist. They have so many options here for this fight. All they need to do is remove the cooldowns. The most important part, though, is that if they go for the Coalescence, Gray needs to look for the hack. Just immediately take them out of it. But he's caught!
In and Gray's already dead! KSAA able to find him! Here comes Kassar. Meteor Strike, ready to go, finds ATF. Saudi Arabia, this was their fight, and they made it their own.
That's the Meteor Strike, that is the Coalescence used, invested there. Kassar cleaning up on the cart. But Portugal did not invest anything CP, and most importantly, they can come back out here with their coal. They can drop the beat early, they can drop the beat in time if they need the flux, and Gray's still about halfway towards the EMP. He might be able to get in this fight depending on how long it lasts.
Saudi Arabia has to be careful not to fall prey to the anti-synergy between dropping a Flux and Death Blossom at the same time.
That is the
one or
classic.
the other, or one right after. We're gonna open with the Flux. Let's wait for Light. Light got hacked. Light can't even Death Blossom right now, so a key hack by Gray to open things up for Portugal. Kept Light out of the fight. Made it so they couldn't easily fall up onto Flux. Light moved back. Death Blossoming nothing at all. ATF though went a little bit too deep, could have gone away, locked in forward. Gray, Desperation EMP, ends up giving his life for it, and Light cannot be stopped here thus far.
Now it's on Cohen. Cohen has to pop off here if there's any hope for Portugal because Gray invested the EMP so late. It was so late in that fight they had the EMP. They needed to use it so much earlier because they let Saudi Arabia sit on top of them. Sure, it was looking okay for them, but it needed to come out so much sooner.
Saudi Arabia Arabia able to power on through. Portugal, they bought some valuable time, but a minute 45 still left to go. This is very possible for Saudi Arabia to finish out on point C.
And now Portugal, they've said, okay, we're just going to mirror match. We're going to put Gray now back onto the Reaper, so it's a full mirror matchup for the squad. No more Sombra on the field, but they're going to be behind in the ult economy game. They have to come and touch the point. They do have the Flux. That is the one thing going for them here, and they need to make it work. The Flux should be available now. They know Lucio is not going to be close to the beat. They need to commit it in this fight.
Portugal, they turn the corner. They try and contest here. It's a little bit risky to start things out. ATF in trouble, under heavy pressure, has the Flux under pressure, but it's far too late. Meanwhile, Kassar got right into the back, ends up falling, but it's enough of a distraction while the rest of the fight went very much in favor of Saudi Arabia.
Great coordination for Saudi Arabia. I think they must, and also the Flux got used and they just moved forward, like you talked about. And that's a beautiful play from them. They made sure to move past the Flux. They made sure to use that halt Doom Punch and just keep walking forward through it.
Now we might see the final form of Gray. Gray, he's had enough. He's going to the McCree. We'll see if he can channel the Spirit half pull from earlier in the day. KSAA, though, has the Flux, throws through in the air, but Kassar couldn't find anything in the back. The Flux doesn't really do a whole lot. And Portugal able to hold on for now.
Gray dropping to the back, getting the flank, and picking off Ryanchu means that they have to wait. They're going to have to regroup. 30 seconds left on the clock. Saudi Arabia, you can't lose anyone else right now if you're going to go for the recontest. You need to wait. But they're committing. They're dropping the supercharger. They're walking in.
This is risky to go in here when you're not at full strength. Cohen just sliding around the back, has a great opportunity to punch someone into the wall. Doesn't quite finish off the pick up, but Gray there to finish what Cohen started. He's back into the fight now on the Reaper, and Saudi Arabia getting thrown directly back. And you're totally right, Abbas. They should have waited a little bit longer.
Yeah, I don't know why they walked forward and committed. They needed to wait just a little bit. They have the battle less, they have the battle frenzy in them, hoping they could continue to move forward, but it was not the case. They needed to regroup. And Portugal has stabilized, not a full cap.
This is still winnable for Saudi Arabia. It's not the absolute best performance on Hollywood. I would say, generally speaking, a really good offense on Hollywood should be able to finish out the map. It's not quite a Dorado situation. But this is still impressive from Saudi Arabia given what we expected. And it does put Portugal under a bit of pressure.
Portugal can't bring out any sort of wackiness either, because if they bring out wackiness and it doesn't succeed, like if they try to play Pharah, if they try to play or put Gray onto more hit scan heroes and they don't have immediate success on first, they're in the hole the rest of the map. And so they really don't have the flexibility necessarily, but they do have a win condition. That is the one good thing about them. All they have to do is get a little bit further, not even full cap, just a little bit further there through that last phase.
I think between the two teams right now, you'd definitely rather be Portugal, given the state of the game, but it's not a wide difference. And I think you're right also in that Portugal probably will stick more to the meta right now. I don't think they have the luxury to go off the grid as they did a little bit back on Control.
Saudi Arabia rolling out here on that meta, that Reaper Doom that we've been seeing so much of. They've been very consistent on it. They've been shown that that is what they prefer to play, and it makes a lot of sense for them because KSA, Sigma, Kassar, the Kassar Doom, the Light Reaper, it's been very, very consistent. They've been making sure. They also have not been throwing away ults left and right. They've been keeping it relatively in time for what they actually need for the combos. We'll see if Gray is going to play the Sombra CP. It might just be a scout, but also we know Gray wants to play Sombra because we just saw him play it.
Also, Sombra has always been one of Gray's signature heroes. Even though he's known as a support player, he would play Sombra in triple DPS setups, going back to when Sombra got ultimate charge off health packs. This is a legacy hero for Gray, but he's not going to play it now.
Saudi Arabia holding here on the high ground. Gray moving back over to the Reaper though. No Sombra going to be coming out, so it is the mirror matchup for both squads. And it's a dangerous game to interfere from this lower because of the halt accretion, the halt Doomfist punches that can come from this room right here. And you see Light is actually waiting.
Oh, that was Fat in the back with the boop, sets up Cohen. What a nice play from the Lucio off the flank. Sets up Portugal real well for a quick point A attack.
That was literally Fat, CP. It was a Fat boop, and it was Fat the player. That boop sets it all up there, and it's opened it up entirely. And they weren't watching for it. Very good opening play from Fat on the Lucio.
I was going to make that pun, but I'm just
too late. Yeah, you're too classy.
But there's no legs that you will not plumb.
I'll stoop as low as needed for comedy. It's an art form.
So Portugal redeeming themselves to a degree here after what was a very rough defense. They come in on a much stronger offense. And Saudi Arabia, I don't think they're going to really swap up. I think this is the composition they're going to run pretty much all series long.
Early coalescence available for Portugal now. Probably going to look forward here, going to look for the halt. The accretion is out, so no stuns. Can they catch anyone here? Can they isolate anyone? They do. They find Kassar. Light down.
Coalescence leading the way. Gray able to follow through right on it, and Portugal just rolling through the gates here in Hollywood. And this is one of the better areas to hold on point B, so Saudi Arabia, it's going to be tough to regroup.
I had to say that coalescence that came out pretty late from Ryan Chu was definitely not need to be invested there at that point. Putting ults into a fight that was already pretty lost is definitely not ideal. Saudi Arabia gonna have to stop this cart at some point, CP, because it is moving at a pretty blazingly fast speed, and now Portugal have done the incredibly smart thing. They put their DPS on high ground, so they can drop down, so they can find a flank. Gray keeping so aggressively here on top of the jail.
He's on the teleport, it's a good flank. It already puts Lucio in a really, really tough spot. Super close game to Death Blossom up and Gray. The rest of Portugal coming in from the front. Gray set up from the flank. Where are they gonna look at? Gray goes in, looking for the Death Blossom. Cohen gets two because they're looking at Gray.
Oh, what a good juke there, actually breaking the ankles from Gray, dodges the punch, picks up the Doom, and the pressure from Gray there, making them turn around and keep that pressure on the Doom Fist was very important there. Portugal is going to coast on here in a second. There's not going to be a recontest available for Saudi Arabia, and this is a blazingly fast side.
This is almost mission impossible now for Saudi Arabia. They're going to have to hold for 5.5 minutes here on point C.
The good news is they have an ult bank. They do have an ult bank, CP. It's not all hope is lost for Saudi Arabia. They do have a strong position, but it is going to be a tough hold.
Portugal looking for revive, moving forward. Cohen immediately getting domed, like firing on back, and Saudi Arabia, they're just taking full presence here on payload. Very much coalescence, but not much else.
Question is, does Saudi Arabia want to hold the doors, or would they rather hold the choke? This choke is very powerful, so sometimes it's not even worth it to spawn camp here because the choke is just so much more valuable in terms of how you can actually own the geometry. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to use the cart as more cover here to play around. Only investing in the coalescence. There's that aggressive supercharger in.
It's a very aggressive supercharger. On some point that could fall immediately. It does. Gray gets them back. Use Death Blossom. Ends up with two. He set the stage, and the chokehold is no more.
And that's really just Portugal. Their DPS completely recognizing what Saudi Arabia want to do there. They wanted to walk forward, use that very aggressive supercharger, and both Gray and Cohen just went to the back. They just walked around them and immediately engaged them on the support line, destroyed the supercharger, made their aggression useless because they were behind them.
Now we're in one fight territory. Portugal, one fight separating them from evening up the series 1-1. Saudi Arabia going to open with the flux, forcing out the beat immediately. Portugal still in a fine spot. Beat traded for flux. In goes Cohen. Will he set things up? Gray right behind him. It's a full frontline fight. It's Cohen for the punch once more. Gets the Arisa, but doesn't finish it off. And Portugal, they got back out of it. They don't want to challenge the Cole.
Portugal just needs to leave. They actually don't have to take this fight at all. The Coalescence is gone. It's out. They're going to have a counter Cole for this re-engage. They're going to have Supercharger. There's no Doom Fist ult. There's no Meteor Strike. There's no Death Blossom. There's nothing to stop this once Limonada gets the Supercharger out.
That was a really, really nice disengage from Portugal, and now they can reap the benefits. Saudi Arabia, a bit drained. They have a beat, but not much else. And Portugal, the Supercharger is ready, the Flux is ready to go. Portugal moving on in. Supercharged Cole, it's deadly, but Gray fell early. Still a chance for Saudi Arabia to bring this back potentially. Jaka looking for anything at the same time, and Portugal have gotten a little bit more here so far, but it is not decisive enough. KSAA and Light start turning it back the other way.
Oh, once again, just a huge read from the DPS players from Saudi Arabia. They come to the back line when the Cole's invested. They focus on those players that are behind the shield. They try to remove the tanks early, and that's exactly what they do. They could not get any value out of that Supercharger.
And to a degree, I kind of feel like Portugal got impatient there. They realized they had a bit of an edge in ults, but how they used Supercharger Cole wasn't very clean.
See Light going to the high ground now, does have that Death Blossom. Probably scouted there by Fat. Fat does have the beat. And for Portugal, this is an opportunity for them to break this open, considering there's no flux available for Saudi Arabia. They can use this beat very aggressively. They can weather the storm. They're going to back up again here for the Coalescence.
Go for the call early. The rock right to Ranchu's face. Gonna take a breather from that, but Gray somehow got caught by KSAA. So you're down your Reaper. You can't really fight. Portugal needs to back out. And on the same note, Saudi Arabia, they can't chase this too deeply.
And they're not. They're going to back up here. They're just going to reset, going to get their cooldowns back up. Their shield health was pretty low there. Saudi Arabia are taking this very measured ZP. They're not over-aggressing. Even when Portugal are trying to run away, trying to kite away from that Coalescence, they're still finding picks.
And they've burned a lot of time off the clock for this. Their measured approach, they haven't taken too many risks. It's been one fight for a while now, but they burned 3 minutes off the clock. Cohen dives in, does his target, goes to the Meteor Strike immediately, deals the Supercharger, but Limonada on the other side falls to Light. Down to tank. Portugal still pushing in. Cohen looking for it. Gray to the back. Death Blossom gets one, but it's a trade. Saudi Arabia making Portugal pay tooth and nail for anyone they take down.
Saudi Arabia are playing this so well, ZP. They're cleaning up the frags. You see Bustio uses the beat, keeps the Death Blossom from being an absolute disaster. Gray gets some value, but they're just continually finding a much better pick with Light in the backline, and Bustio is actually having incredibly good beats. As we got some alarms going on because it's Saudi Arabia time. Woo!
There is a fire alarm going off in the building. I don't know quite what that means, but
Saudi Arabia's on fire, boys. They're doing so well. This is a celebration. World Cup. It's lit.
well, this defense definitely is lit, is what I will say. Light and Kassar moving on in. They pick up another 4. Saudi Arabia, is this the miracle defense we're looking for?
We have 50 seconds left. Can we finish the game before the fire consumes us? I don't know. This is a great question.
I don't know if we have to leave or not.
We have 50 seconds.
What's more important? Life or liberty? I don't.
Jake is telling us our life is more important. Well, we're leaving. Okay, bye-bye, guys. Love you.
Farewell.
live? I don't know.
It's probably
We're live. We're live. Hello. We're back.
And we're back. Normally I have a better throw than that, but we just had some pretty unique circumstances, and it appears that Portugal did win on Hollywood.
Portugal did win. They did force us off the cart. They C9'd us, and we're back to finish it out.
I've never seen 9 before in a cast, but that was the first.
I mean, that's what happens when you have a super hot fire matchup like this, man. You gotta do a quick safety test.
I guess
so. Very good stuff coming out here at the World Cup so far.
Well, it does mean our series is even up 1-1, so it's gonna be heating up even more.
So we're going to escort now. It's gonna be Rialto. Let's bring it down a bit, you know? Like we were very much in a safety, like park ranger mode, but now we're back. We're back to normal. Now we're on Rialto. Saudi Arabia, Portugal tied 1-1.
Saudi Arabia, a bit of a change up for them based on how we've seen them play previously, where you look at this defense. Gonna be coming out here on the Bastion Farah.
So we're playing a very slow, steady pace for them. I mean, Farah has always been a staple for Rialto, as we've seen. Always looking for those concussive mines off the map. There's a lot of environmental hazards. You can play around the geometry, just be constant poke into the spawn even. You see with Ryan Chu on the Batiste, that means they're committed to the bunker. They're committed very hard to this bunker here. They're going to make sure to save that immortality field for when the engage happens for Portugal.
Light hanging in the back. We'll see how Portugal decides to deal with this Bastion play. I imagine we might see a swap up here.
I think they should definitely swap off.
Yeah, I don't think Widow is actually the play at this point. I know, Gray is going over the Hanzo, where you get a good amount of sniper power, but you can actually break shields.
The real question now for Saudi Arabia is that can they sustain the spam? Probably, but it's a question of make sure that Ryan Chu is keeping that immortality field up at the proper moment. Horthic going for the flank, gonna get stopped, gonna get isolated there, making sure that he can't actually find the flank that he needs.
Top field gonna fall, but overall Light's still reasonably well protected. Pressure coming in from Portugal, and Light not in turret mode. Doesn't matter. KSA has his back, takes down Horthic. and Saudi Arabia going to be able to reposition.
KSA's Sigma has been very good so far this series, and he's doing just exactly right where you're making sure that they can't get the flank with the Pharah behind. That's something we see a lot of teams that play the strategy before where they fail, is that they're not watching for the Pharah flank.
Going to fall, and Saudi Arabia well positioned right now. Portugal really hasn't figured out how to crack this defense.
They're also stuck in this room right here close to the cart. They're not actually getting cart pressure, but they're not even pressuring. They're stuck there. Jaka going to go down. Ryan Chu managed to find that snipe, getting a lot of those headshots. Portugal, they need to regroup. Something that Portugal's had some big problems with so far is just getting the regroup. They need to get that regroup going.
Running far right now, they've really struggled getting the far into a spot that can pressure the Bastion, where Saudi Arabia has done a really good job of making space for this defensive embankment. And now Portugal, they're just trying to sneak their way past.
You see the pressure here for ATF. He's still moving that cart forward, still trying to pressure it as hard as he can. He's gonna have to back up now. Sorry, looking to take the duel. Hits one rocket. Does not get the second.
Still heavy pressure on the Worthik, as Worthik is continually being pushed back. Portugal, they've just been ignoring the Bastion to an extent, just focusing on the payload, moving forward. At some point, Portugal is going to need to rotate around, get the Bastion in. Oh! Worthik just devastated. The resurrection there immediately not denied, but Light in a much better spot right now. A little bit of revenge though. Jaka able to take Kassar out of the sky. But the resurrection gonna be there.
The red's gonna come out though. Kassar back alive, back on this plane. ATF gonna get cleaned up on the car. In Portugal, there's just a split here. They've been taking this Pharah duel, but they haven't actually managed to successfully break the shield either. They have Gray on the Hanzo, but they're not breaking shield. They're not winning they're not getting the Pharah space that they need, and they're not winning the frontline war because Light is sitting there and constantly annihilating the shield for Portugal.
I mean, the best move Portugal has done so far is rotate around for payload progress, but they've never won a clean fight against Saudi Arabia yet. At Saudi Arabia, they're stacked 5 ultimates in reserve.
Portugal moving forward here, going to drop that supercharger around the corner, trying to get the pressure, trying to break that shield quick. There's going to be the immortality field, the Ant Matrix out. You see how Portugal now just backs away. This is a smart move from them because they forced both the immortality field and the Ant Matrix out and the supercharger, and they're going to back off. Now here comes the re-engage.
The cooldown's happened, they didn't look for Kassar. He got to the back, the barrage taking down 2, and that might be enough for Saudi Arabia. Light still in a good spot. He's going to be trading out flux. Everyone learns to fly. But Jaka, give me the one to fall. Oh! Again! What a shot! If I'm Horthick, I'm mad right now.
These air shots are insane. Someone hit me with a gunshot brights because these are some crazy air shots here on Rialto so far. 30 seconds left on the clock. Portugal, they have barrage. Nothing else really in the bank. They're getting close to Valkyrie. The barrage is their only hope, but if they don't force this immortality field early, ZP, and if they don't deal with the fact that KSA's been having his number the entire time, it could be a little rough.
Portugal on their final attempt before getting full health here in Rialto, and Horthick, he's a bit far away. I mean, this is what happens when you just get directed multiple times in a row, I suppose.
Horthick going around to the back. You see ATF on the point there once again. Limonana hiding in the main, needs heals, but they have very low heals because of the Sin. They just can't sustain. Horthick's already down.
Kassar in over the top. Horthick, I'm sure he's really resable at the spot. Gray, anti-air Hanzo, absolutely ineffective. Beacon able to finish him off, and Kassar in on the flank, rocket after rocket heading on in, Light backing it up, and Saudi Arabia, they're gonna hold Portugal right here on Rialto.
And we have to, and something I wasn't really bringing up there, but I should bring up now, is that Portugal is going to for that damage breaking comp, that shield breaking comp with Jaka on the Zin, but because of that, they have 0 heals. They can't pressure card effectively because they're trying to pocket Horthick on the Pharah. They have a Zin with Jaka, so he can't really effectively heal people consistently all the way back up to full. But they weren't even winning Shield War, ZP. They weren't even winning Shield War because Light is on Bastion, and they also have Ryan Chu on Batiste, and they're constantly getting those Ant Matrixes. There was just no winning there. They weren't getting any of their actual win conditions up.
This makes things very difficult for Portugal, where even though Portugal was able to get in at the very last moment on Hollywood, it appears on offense, Portugal just hits moments where they get in a cycle of bad engages, whether it be just not knowing what to do to deal with what the defense is throwing at them, or just not being on the same page. Whatever it may be, you should not get stuck as long as they are. And Saudi Arabia, to their credit, they're playing really well.
So now getting ready for Saudi Arabia to roll out here on the defense. They have a very clear win condition. Portugal looking like they want to play Graham Sombra here again, like you were talking about. And it's sort of tough for Sombra on Rialto, I'd say. For Rialto first, Sombra has always been a hero where I'm like, yes, you have a lot of high ground, you have a lot of flanks, but effectively finding EMPs in the choke across the bridge is one of the harder parts to do because you can get pressured out so easily.
Well, it's not even that. When I look at running the Sombra on defense here, I think the bigger issue that you run into is that inevitably Saudi Arabia is going to get to a point where they're one fight away from winning and Gray won't have EMP. And when that fight happens, I think it's going to be really difficult for Portugal to hold on.
Portugal holding this high ground right now. Porthic floating around to join. And Saudi Arabia, when you see that you have the Mei, they have the Bastion, they have the Batiste, they're going for the bunker. This is a protect the president strategy. They want to sit on cart, they want to get it moving. And the reality is Portugal does not have a lot to deal with it because it's very reliant on Gray and Horthic to find a pick.
Puts a lot of pressure on Gray. Everything Portugal has been running has been a Gray-centered strategy. Xar taken down early, a little bit far forward, punished. But this has been good payload progress for Saudi Arabia.
However, Portugal's already given up the high ground. They've rotated CP. I don't think they actually need to rotate at all. They do still have ATF there right now, but Limonada has fallen. He's on the ground. Gray getting the hack, getting some poke.
You're getting really good Bastion pressure in now from Saudi Arabia. They're going to be able to rotate up to the high ground, flush Portugal out a little bit more, and they get more payload progress, and that's about to put it in the one-fight territory.
And them losing the high ground was probably the worst thing that could have happened, though. Khazar going down again.
ATF one time after another, and Portugal now up two, able to pressure a lot more. In Saudi Arabia, they have to get out, but there's no way out aside from the weaponry of Portugal.
Orthic has that barrage available. Coalescence is up, so the ult bank already ticking up here upwards for Portugal. Saudi Arabia look like they're going to make some swaps, though. They would rather just play the Fair Mercy of their own, just counter Fair Mercy it, and actually put Light onto the Reaper. So they're going for a full cart presence here. Now with Light on the Reaper, they swap. They have that. They still have that Sigma. They still have that Rizza. They can pressure the cart very effectively, but now they can actually counter duel the Fair Mercy.
Xar gonna eat a rock from Horthic, and both Faras trading out. This time Horthic getting pushed back a bit, but gives
They nanoed Boostio.
And Gray got slumped. Gray got slumped and taken down the other side. This gives Saudi Arabia a man advantage moving forward. They won't have to worry about the EMP for quite a while, and this is where they can make some serious progress. And they actually got the res off on Gray.
Gray though is asleep again, but they won't come up. Can he get out?
When
He has EMP.
Your star carry just developed narcolepsy in the middle of the fight, and he's
out.
down. Gray couldn't get away.
Oh my
Had no
goodness.
ability to get the EMP out.
Ryan Chu, you narcoleptic monster. That is insane.
And Saudi Arabia now with room to work with a minute 40 left, plenty of time. They forced the supercharger out from Portugal, and Portugal not really the best situation to take advantage of it. But Light gets hot, couldn't get away.
Gray's going to be back at this point, too. They have EMP. There's only a minute and a half left on the clock, and it's been chaos. It's been very chaotic so far in this push. The repeated sleeps. Gray's been getting great, even though he's been getting slept repeatedly. Getting good pressure onto the backline. Horthic is controlling the sky still very effectively. And look at the ult bank for Saudi Arabia. They don't really have much. They're ticking up from some ults, but they don't have a lot of time for it.
Portugal in a much better spot now. 1 minute to go, EMP in reserve. It's been a bit messy on both sides, but this is definitely something that Portugal can win. They can get the fuller hole.
A little bit less than 1 minute left on the clock. Super both tank ults available for Saudi Arabia. They don't want to overinvest and take this fight too long, though, because they lose all their fight wins. It's going to be tough. Horthic, though, going down.
Far Mercy duels, big deal, especially if they can't protect the res. And the EP comes down, and Saudi Arabia just disengages. And Light, able to get away. The hack fades at the last moment, able to shift on out. Khazar from the side, deals with Horthic, denies the barrage. Saudi Arabia in a good spot. They weathered the EP, they weathered the barrage. The two are not used together, and Saudi Arabia, Light leads the way, gets three, and this might be Saudi Arabia going up 2-1.
And the EMP was actually pretty good. They also hacked Horthic, I should say, Khazar out of the barrage, but they couldn't clean up. They couldn't clean up one of those frags because they were playing Pharah, they were playing Sombra. They just split. That's the cap. And once the post-fight happens, Light is able to just walk forward. Saudi Arabia up 2-1 over Portugal.
And what powered that from Saudi Arabia? An absolute iron defense where Portugal just could not deal with the Bastion. They didn't leave themselves enough wiggle room. And as a result, Saudi Arabia able to finish things out on point A, and they are one map away from defeating Portugal.
Very good showing here for Saudi Arabia. They're showing incredible flexibility as well. Bringing out the Batiste, bringing out the Bastion, something we haven't really seen too much in our group as of yet, in any of our group play. But obviously have been elsewhere. But Saudi Arabia showing a lot of flexibility here, especially with their backline. They've been doing a great job. They've been adjusting as needed. They're not just meta one tricks. This is a very good showing for Saudi Arabia. This is a very good understanding of what swaps they need to make.
Exciting times here in the Overwatch World Cup. These are the stories you watch for, and one is unfolding right before your eyes now. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll see if Portugal can stay alive. It has been a slugfest between Saudi Arabia and Portugal, and Saudi Arabia one map away from what many would consider to be an upset in their first appearance here in the Overwatch World Cup.
Saudi Arabia looking very consistent. Their players have looked both flexible and also just as strong on the meta that they need. KSA been a standout. I mean, honestly, I look to every member of this team and I say this is a pretty talented roster all around. It's a far better performance than we've expected for a team that had never been to BlizzCon before. And they're about to take this series, EP. They're up 2-1.
Which is impressive given that you look at Portugal. You do have notable players on there that have been fixtures in the community for a very long time. Players like Gray, players like Horthic.
Players like Fat.
Yeah.
Fat was at Atlantic Showdown. He was great.
Yeah, they're taking it to task.
So this is Portugal's chance to bring it back. Because remember, it is 1st to 3. Saudi Arabia on the cusp of taking this.
Jake is sitting 2 feet to the right of us. I feel like we should just bring him over here because...
To see the Horthic Rat?
Yeah, we got Junkrat.
We have a quick live judging there. Well, we're paused. So the Horthic Rat, we're not going to be able to see it just yet. He is also in the middle of his own cast, so unlikely we're going to be able to get him to come judge.
It's unconfirmed, but maybe we're just pausing, waiting for the other series to end so we can pull in Jake for 10 seconds of analysis on the Junkrat.
Thank you. That's a pretty good move, actually. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's right there. I'm looking at him.
I mean, you've heard of American Idol, but have you heard of American Rat? And this is what we're about to see. We're about to all judge it. It was like, I'm putting you through. You're going to Hollywood, baby. American Rat.
Why does every caster I've casted with in the last 2 years simply have some sort of connection to rats and, one
Who
form
has
or another?
Oh, I guess that's true, technically, isn't it?
You danced in a rat suit.
Well, I feel it's a little bit more subtle than that, It's a whole abstract art piece.
Very good. But we are just waiting for things to get kicked off. There is a small technical issue, so when that resolves, we'll be right back.
Well, we're back.
Wow,
nice. Good work. That's movie magic, baby.
That was incredible.
5, 4.
So here we go. Portugal, Saudi Arabia here
You know what that
on
is?
Anubis.
Under promise, over deliver.
This is actually the first time we have seen a map 4 in our bracket, by the way.
It is.
We have not seen it. We have not seen an assault map yet. This is our first time today.
Well, that's because we've banned the UK from our bracket. They're too good. We
They're
just
too
moved
good.
them on to tomorrow.
We've kicked them out. Portugal, they're playing very slow here. You see how they're split on both these high grounds. There's no easy way for Saudi Arabia to commit onto one group because they can just rotate away the other way. They're trying to play slow, trying to get those picks. Great, he needs to find the pick because Horthic, as Junk, is not going to be able to find a lot of kills. There's a lot of sustain for Saudi Arabia. He's just waiting for the tire.
Horthic is pressure and disruption that should give Gray more opportunities to find ahead. But again, Portugal is running something that relies on Gray being a superstar.
Saudi Arabia now rotating up to this high ground. See, they're setting up. They're trying to clear Portugal, trying to move Horthic over to the other high ground, and then they're going to move to point.
Moving on to the point, Gray can't quite finish it off. Heavy pressure here on the Portugal. And Ranchu finds Fat. Both the Mercy and the Widow are down. This is going to be a very quick point A for Saudi Arabia.
Beautiful pincer move there from Saudi Arabia. They set up in the room. They fake it out like they're going onto the top right high ground to the Mega, and instead their DPS go from the opposite side, find Gray, and then they send their tanks to point. Very good move from Saudi Arabia. And now Portugal, they need to swap. They can't stay on Widow. They cannot stay on Widow for this offense. They need to swap. They're going to be behind in ults, and Saudi Arabia can just roll in with this Coalescence.
And more than that, we've canceled the Jake guest appearance because Junkrat is gone. Horthic moving over to Doomfist, but Saudi Arabia moving into this point with a lot of momentum.
And it's probably a very disastrous thing for Portugal considering this. They didn't get a lot of time on the clock. The Hulk comes out. Sar, though, going to live. Light going to make it back with the rest of the team. It's Coalescence moving on to the point. Portugal, they have no ult bank because of these swaps.
Coalescence coming on now. Kassar already down. It's a good omen here for Portugal. What could have been a very tough fight for the Cole. Still doing plenty of damage. Ends up taking down 2. Saudi Arabia a little bit wounded. Still in the fight. Light with room to work with. Close filling. Death Blossom on the way. 95%. Portugal in real danger. Now Horthic is down. Who's going to be removing people from the point?
Great accretion. Horthic down. Saudi Arabia, though, they don't have Light. He needs to be getting these cleanup kills. They need to play tight around him. Right now, it's the Light show, CP. Light is the one that is all determined on. Ryanshu getting picked. It's a lot of sustain down, but it's not necessarily over, but it looks like Saudi Arabia would rather just leave.
I was going to say it's a Light show and we're about to peep it, but Saudi Arabia, they turned out the lights. They're just
They
backing
did.
out.
Good pick. Very good pick there. Finding the Moira. That's probably one of the most value picks that Portugal could have gotten. No ticks given up. But still look at this ult bank. Look at this ult bank for Saudi Arabia. They're moving in. They're going to have Flux. They're going to have Beat. They're going to have pretty much 5 ults coming up in this next fight. And Fat does not have Beat yet for this Flux.
I think the disengage for Saudi Arabia makes a lot of sense. They're going for one big, high-quality attack, and Portugal might be at a bit of a disadvantage.
From Saudi Arabia, they're playing a little slow. They're setting up the engage. There's the supercharger around the corner. Where's the Flux going to come out there? They're going to wait till Fat gets beat is the question.
Superchargers down on both sides. Gray able to get a little bit of blood in his own backline. Deals with the dive in from Kassar. With 2 down from Saudi Arabia. I don't think she does anything more, but they go for the Flux.
They're committing.
And they take down Sigma on the other side, but I think that's a bit of a waste. Gray gonna finish things off with Death Blossom, and I think that fight was over for Saudi Arabia.
Ryan Chu has been getting caught multiple times. They've been doing Portugal's been doing a great job of finding Ryan Chu. Horthic in particular, as soon as a Coalescence is used, Horthic is waiting for that Moira. It's one of the most vulnerable times Moira's actually in, is when the Coalescence is out, because you have no escapes. You have no ability to really you have no right click to just duel. Sure, you have Coalescence, but everyone can easily target you.
Saudi Arabia gonna be moving into the right. Nowhere near as rich in ults as they were a moment before. Doomfist engage. Horthic doesn't quite connect. Has to go for the meteor strike real quick on the fight. Drops on down under heavy pressure. Nearly out of it. Saudi Arabia very weakened. Trying to heal back up. They drop the beat. Actually get back in a decent spot. Beats have been exchanged. Saudi Arabia moving back over, but Kassar gets caught. Gray shotgun damage.
Still very winnable there. Lucio is going to go down, but Ryan Chu has stayed alive. They have the sustain. They might get a late call, but Ryan Chu, he's so split from his team. I've noticed multiple times now. He seems to be split. He uses the fade, and he's still not in position. But Portugal doing a great job of continuing to own this point. Still not a single tick given. A lot of time burned off the clock. We're getting close to only 2.5 minutes left.
Portugal bringing themselves back into stuff with Anubis. They were in danger of getting speed run. Able to hold on to key fights, and you're right. It has been a lot of pressure on the Ryan Chu.
Saudi Arabia re-entering, they do have the Coalescence, but once again, if that Coal is used, Horthic is looking for Ryan Chu and he can't escape.
There's gonna be a Flux opened up here for Portugal. But Saudi Arabia, they shrug it on off. Light able to find Jaka early. Now they just dive on in. They have the man advantage. They're gonna press it. KSAA explodes, gets 2, and the Supercharger adding on to the damage, and this should be it. I don't think Portugal can get back from this one.
Horthic down, there's no instant pick potential. There's the halt, bye-bye Fat. And Portugal, can they even touch the point? They can't. 1 minute 54, that's a pretty good time for Anubis. Not as blazingly fast as what they originally wanted, but still a very solid time.
And don't forget, Portugal, this is now their tournament life on the line. If they do not find a way to turn this around, which starts with just completing Anubis to begin with, that's it. It'll be Saudi Arabia's not only first match in the Overwatch World Cup, it'll be their first win.
Portugal now going to be on this offense. They need to find a solutions. We wouldn't be surprised to see I wouldn't be surprised to see a Grey Widow for the first. Anubis first has always been a traditional offense-sided Widow map. You can look for the sight lines. If you get that early pick, it's always good because you are on that first point and you have the spawn advantage. But realistically, I feel like Portugal has done their best during this series when they played Reaper Doom. I feel like that's when they've been at their best.
I think what Portugal has really gotten into a bad habit of is that, we've talked about it a little bit before, but they're running compositions that basically say Gray, who is a support player that is flexing to DPS for this tournament, needs to play out of his mind. Just full ultimate carry mode, channel his inner Corey to make it work. I don't think that is the right move for Portugal. Gray is a great player, but they're trying to put too much on his shoulders. When they run a composition like they're running now, it's more evenly balanced across the board.
Saudi Arabia setting up, playing Mei Reaper actually, so no Doom now for them. But the Mei makes a lot of sense here for Anubis first. These chokes are very easy to wall. You can catch one of the tanks by themselves as they try to enter. With Kassar and the Mei, it makes a lot of sense. Portugal putting Horthic now onto the Widow actually. Will Horthic swap, or are they going to try to play the Widow? This is actually one of the times the Widow could potentially make sense if you can get the flank. But Horthic's saying, no, we're just going to go Mei, we're going to counter wall, we're going to deny the walls for Kassar.
It's going to make this a little bit of a slower burn relative to normal, and just saying the word burn, this reminds me of us evacuate a little bit ago.
Just moments ago.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know if I can use that word for a while. But Portugal, going to go right up the middle. Kassar, throw the top, good made pressure, ATF already down, and even down boosting Saudi Arabia, if they can just back out, get steals from Ryan Chu, should be able to go back in. They steal off the Arisa, and now finish off Limonada.
Beckon down, Limonada down. They've traded the main tanks, but this is still very much in favor of Portugal. They have the spawn advantage. They're moving through the Trogue, and Gray, he's on the point.
Portugal looking much better on the more conventional composition. Gray just able to walk to the back, picks up 2. That's gonna be it. Portugal able to move in. It's gonna be a very quick point A take, and this could have all the makings of a many-round Temple of Anubis.
And once again, Fat was instrumental for the opening. He goes around, he does the Reddit Lucio, and he boops them off the high ground. You know, we say the Reddit Lucio, but really that's just a solid play. We just like to call it that. But very good opening once again from Portugal. Pretty fast first, going to move forward. They have the coalescence, but equal on both sides. No clear ult advantage for either team. So what we need to watch here is the halts and the walls. The halts and the walls, that's going to generally determine who gets the first pick on this entry.
Light right on in. Saudi Arabia with a really good wall just sets up Light to walk at Portugal.
That wall locking them off, catching them with the choke. Both teams investing the coalescence, so still equal. About 5 minutes on the board now for Portugal. And now we're into the slow grind. The slow grind for Anubis second. It's a dance of, do we overcommit ults for a fight? Do we save ults for a fight? Do we have the right picks necessary to actually get the pressure we need on point? And it's a very, very delicate mixture to make sure that you know when you can commit here.
And for the offense, even when you have 5 minutes left, you are not guaranteed to finish things out. Saudi Arabia stacked on defensive ultimates, and they're going to decide to chill things out a little bit. They open up the Blizzard, and Portugal completely caught. ATF falling as a result, and Gray tried to go for the Death Blossom
in
there.
The mail.
Completely denied.
Well, he got frozen. He was in the middle of the mail. He gets the beat too. Fat actually commits the beat there, and that was a pretty disastrous fight for Portugal because you look at the upcoming fight. There's no beat. KSA can look for a free flux as they enter through the choke and force a lot of those cooldowns like Fortify and Shadow Step. Definitely not the place that you wanted to commit an ult like there.
It was just a weird Death Blossom because even if you're leeching enough HP to stay alive, you're going to get frozen, and that stops the spinning.
Now Saudi Arabia, all they have to do is just make sure that KSA has a good moments. You see the accretion come out. Light has to retreat off the high ground, but that's fine. They don't need to control the high ground. They just need to control the choke.
Going to be an early wall here for Portugal looking for the split. Meanwhile, Flux out from KSAA.
Look at Light.
Interrupting Portugal as they move on in, and Light, he's going in on a really, really long flank. I mean, I think it's taking him a little bit too long to get over, but better late than never. Moving on over, Death Blossom ready, forces out the grasp. Sigma, and it puts ATF in a real rough spot.
No ticks given either. They're still holding on to the point. Portugal, you need to reset or die right now. They don't even have to use it. The fight's over. The fight's over. There should be no Death Blossom. They just need to get out.
So Saudi Arabia, really good flux from KSAA where there was the incoming May wall. Portugal had a decent split, but they trade out the flux, they stay alive, and now they've burned another minute off the clock.
They also forced Horthic because of the flux. Horthic was forced to mail to hopefully try to isolate someone and stop them from following up the flux. So that exchange was just far better for Saudi Arabia. They've held on to their beat here too, so when ATF is going to look to use the flux, they still have the beat. Now Portugal is going to be rotating in once again from this left side, from this left flank. Look how aggressive Saudi Arabia is being here.
Being quite aggressive, but they pay the price. However, Horthic down. Here comes Light. Use Death Blossom in a great spot, just going in from the back. So much damage coming in from the Reaper here, and that's more than enough to derail this attack.
Light just walking forward, doing what Reaper does best, the WM1. Hitting shot after shot, making sure those tanks are getting chunked down. And this has been a very good hold for Saudi Arabia so far. After this next push, Portugal is already going to be at equal time banks if they manage to cap at all.
So, Portugal, 2 minutes, 20 seconds left. What was a very good early attack has petered out here. They do not have the momentum they had before, and they need to find a good attack in the next two.
This is probably their chance, CP, when you look at the fact that they have a flux, they have a beat. KSA does not have that flux just yet. This could be their chance to be very aggressive, though, as I say that Fat caught Saudi Arabia's DPS playing so close here, looking to catch these frags.
And this was a very cheap fight. Nothing had to be burned for Saudi Arabia. Just one good Doomfist pick, and it sets them up so well for the next.
And with that, KSA has the flux. They burnt more time off the clock. No matter what happens now, Portugal will not be able to get a better time or even an equal time. Very well played from Saudi Arabia. Every time Portugal is going for these rotations, they're playing so aggressive as EP. They're keeping their DPS on the high ground, looking for the flanks. And Portugal, they need to be decisive. They need to either pressure this DPS out or they need to take the move. They need to make the move.
And now in terms of how grim things are for Portugal, remember, if they don't take this point in the next minute 20, that's it. It's over. Saudi Arabia moves on to fight the Netherlands in the next round. Horthic goes for the early pickup, does not connect, has to back out. They're caught completely. Kassar able to move in off the halt.
Beautiful halt meteor strike there. Though both support ults were invested for Saudi Arabia, but that's fine. Portugal also using both their tank ults. They keep themselves alive. They win the fight. They still have ults for the following fight. Supercharger, Flux, Death Blossom, and this is last fight territory, CP.
And don't forget for Portugal, they have to finish with at least 1 second left on the clock, or the very best they can do is a draw. And I'm calling it right now. Saudi Arabia can drain the clock here no matter what.
Horthic is going to have to be the difference maker. Right now for Portugal, Horthic has to be the difference maker. Fat must save his beat for the Flux. If Horthic can remove the Supercharger, if he can get an early pick onto one of the DPS, it is possible for them to cap it. But there's no... It's already gone.
As Death Blossom doesn't use it just yet, Kisara's down. Saudi Arabia, it's a rough engage. They're trying to get a little bit cute with the Flux. It does not happen. 24 seconds left. And I might have spoken too soon. Portugal with a real chance of finishing with at least 1 second left on the clock.
Light is still alive. Light's just going to be looking for the delay here. They have the Shadow Step. A lot of contest is still possible for Saudi Arabia. It's a question, can Ryan Chu get this Coalescence? If the Coalescence is available, Horthic's down. That's a lot of pick potential gone.
Horthic is down, and the Ryan snipe might not happen, but now it's going to be a Ryan to the back. This is plenty of damage. It's a great position to swing the hammer and go to town. Portugal fighting for their lives as Saudi Arabia starting to remove them from point B. The reinforcements are back in town, and this is looking to be it. Portugal on their very final moments here, delaying, hoping for the miracle. Gray picks off the Doom, but it's not going to be enough. Saudi Arabia moves on.
Their first win in World Cup, and it was heralded in a very weird way. We had some interesting events before, but Saudi Arabia finishing it out 3-1. Well played to them. And that is the definition of a team that would not have been here if not for the fact that their community was behind them, and they made them proud. They moved forward.
They'd one of the stronger community teams, one of the stronger PR movements to get them here to BlizzCon today, and they've been rewarded. They were able to defeat Portugal, a team that was a very heavy favorite. And now, coming up next, we're going to get to see what Saudi Arabia has in store for the Netherlands.
And Netherlands is, once again, like I reiterated earlier, I feel confident about Netherlands. I think Netherlands has a lot of potential on that squad. I think they have a lot of ability to do very good in this World Cup. It's a team that could surprise some people. But Saudi Arabia has already surprised me as well. I actually don't necessarily know who's going to be the favorite in that matchup.
Right now, even though I'd favor Netherlands, I think Saudi Arabia might have a shot. You want to find out what's going to happen? Stay tuned. We'll be back soon.